Welcome to Techstination. Joining us is Al Abassi, a product developer at Fender. Thank you for joining us, Al.
Thanks for having me, Fred.
You're doing some fun things at Fender. You're bringing the Vintera Series to life. Give us a bit of an overview of what the Vintera Series is all about.
Well, our new Vintera series is replacing what people might know as our classic series. So what this is vintage instruments, instruments that we make to be the feel and sound of the instruments that Fender made in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So it's a pretty wide and deep series that has a little bit of something for everybody. Stratocasters, Telecasters, jazz basses, P basses, all designed to give you the look and feel and sound of cool Fender classic models from the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
And you're doing it kind of in a fun way. You're got a whole campaign around this from videos to photography and artists involved. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, we're working with a lot of great artists. We always like to put the instruments into the hands of people that use them. So when we do that, it really allows us to showcase how Fender is kind of a great tool for artists to express themselves. One of the things that Fender has is a beautiful tone that is well known by players all around. And a lot of people say that a Fender allows you to have your own artistic voice, even though it sounds like a Fender. In other words, if you play a Strat or a Tele, you can tell that an artist is playing a Strat or a Tele, but it still sounds like a Strat or a Tele, and it sounds like you. It sounds like the person playing it, okay? So we've got a lot of great artist videos that we're working with different artists to make, and it's just really fun to see them have their own take, playing their own music or playing covers of old tunes in their own style using the Fender instruments.
Now, obviously, there have been some changes in materials, technology, etc. Tell us about some of the challenges in recreating these original sounds.
Well, it's interesting. The pickup construction, pickups in general are the pieces on the guitar that actually generate the tone. They're really kind of like the heart of the guitar, and they're like little microphones that take the sound of the string and transfer it to our amplifiers. And what we've done on this new series is we've redesigned all the pickup sets on each instrument so they are a little bit closer to the way they would have been made in sound in each of the eras, 50s, 60s, and 70s. So if you take, for instance, a 50 Strat from the Vintera series and put it next to a 60 Strat and a 70 Strat from the Vintera series, you'll notice that each of the guitars sound a little different. And that's because the way we designed and constructed the pickups, we did it just like they would have done in the 50s or 60s or 70s. So what you get are instruments that really have unique sounds that are drawn from those beautiful vintage eras. So it's really fun. Every different guitar has a brand new set of pickups. So it's like an artist that has a palette of colors, and there's 8 different shades of red. Okay, so it's really fun for the artist because they can pick and choose a certain decade, whether they want, say, a 70s Tele Custom or a 70s Strat or a 50s Telecaster. They can pick and choose what era they want and really dial in a tone that really represents that time period in Fender's history.
For the average consumer, relate this to us. Talk about some songs or some artists that kind of illustrate the point of what you're talking about.
Well, if you listen to somebody like Jimi Hendrix, who was using 60 Strats, and then, you compare it to somebody who is playing something from the modern era, the timbre and the tone of the guitars are subtly different, okay? So if you listen to like Buddy Holly strumming on a 50 Strat, you'll notice that it's, very bell-like and trebly and bright. And then, as you get into the 60s and 70s, the pickups changed a tad in their construction, and you'll notice probably that the sound is a little bit more gainy and a little bit more mid-rangey. So it's very subtle, but you can hear it on the records. If you compare like a Buddy Holly Stratocaster tune to like a Jimi Hendrix Stratocaster tune, you can start to understand and hear these subtle differences in the tone of the guitars that kind of show how they developed through the decades. It's very subtle. All the tones that come from our Strats, Teles, precision basses, jazz basses all have that core beautiful Fender tone. But like I said before, like a painter with a palette of different shades of red, they are subtly different. So if you listen to Buddy Holly or Jimi Hendrix, playing a clean tone, you can really hear how in the 50s it was a little brighter and bell-like, and in the 60s it kind of got a little bit more aggressive, and the EQ changed a little bit. It's really fun though to do that kind of stuff.
Really, really, for the fans, they know the sounds, they know what makes an artist unique, and they may not know that part of that picture is the guitar that the artist is playing.
Absolutely. It is amazing how much expressiveness you can get when you switch from, say, a Telecaster to a Stratocaster to a Jazzmaster. They all have different vibes and different qualities to the sounds you get. And you're right. Sometimes when you, as a fan, you listen to a record and you can tell that there's something different about the way the instrument sounds, but maybe you can't quite explain that. And a large part of it is, every different guitar or amplifier that is used does change the tone quite a bit. And I think that's why a lot of artists love Fenders, is because there's such a wide variety of different instruments and amplifiers that we have that create a nice variety of tones. It's just very fun for the artist to kind of dial in their own sound that way.
So go through what some of the different models are that you're coming out with in the Vintera series.
Like I said, it's stuff from the 50s and 60s and 70s. So from the 50s era, we have a 50s Stratocaster, a 50s precision bass, and we're also doing 50s Telecasters. Some of the models also have a sister counterpart of vintage style instruments that have been modified a little bit. And you'll notice that in the series, there's a few instruments, for instance, a 50s Tele modified, that has been modified in subtle ways to make them a little bit more player-centric. There's some features that make them easier to play. So in the 50s, there's a 50s Strat, 50s Tele modified. 60s era, we have the same kind of thing, a 60s Stratocaster, a 60s Telecaster with a Bigsby, a 60s Jazz bass. We also have a host of Mustang and Jaguar and Jazzmaster models from the 60s. And then as you get into the 70s, we're offering the cool 70s Tele Custom, 70s Tele Deluxe, 70s Jazz bass that has beautiful block inlays on the fretboard. So I think more than any other series we make, this actually has more different models to choose from, which is really fun as well.
What can you tell us about pricing and availability?
Well, the base models start around $899, and they go up from there depending on what model you have. If you have an ash body, it's $50 more, and the modified models are $999 base price in a store if you bought one. And these are shipping as we speak. We're shipping them out to dealers around the world, so that when we make our big splash at NAMM, they should be readily available starting now in stores.
Terrific. For more info, where do we go?
Fender.com. There's a lot of good stuff to see on there. All the Vintera series, all the artist videos, really fun stuff.
And on that note, no pun intended, or maybe there is, Al Abassi, thanks for taking the time with us.
Thanks, Fred.
Now this. Innovation. Hi, I'm Fred Fishkin, and I've been covering consumer technology for a long time, and it takes a lot to impress me. That's why I'm excited to tell you about the latest way to enjoy cooking in the great outdoors from my friend Patrick Sherwin and his great team at GoSun Stove. What if you could harness the sun to cook your meals anywhere you go, day or night? The GoSun Fusion arrives this summer using the company's tried and true reflectors and a solar vacuum tube to get you cooking without the mess of charcoal, heavy propane tanks, or smoke. And with an optional solar panel and battery storage, and the ability to plug in at home or on the road, you really can use the GoSun Fusion to cook anytime and anywhere. Want to learn more? Head to gosun.co and use the code TEXTINATION to save 10%. That's gosun.co.